By the end of today's episode, you'll know whether your acting skills are at the level they need to be to start booking bigger roles in professional film and television. Welcome to the Actor's Career Compass, where we help aspiring screen actors find high-quality auditions, sign with great agents, and book major roles in legit productions. I'm your host, Martin Benson, and today we'll be talking about how to evaluate your acting ability. You'll learn exactly what casting directors want in the actors they hire for major union film and television roles. Here's some of the things that we'll be covering in depth. The differences between casting directors who work in screen versus stage when it comes to what they look for in actors. How to evaluate your performances with a 4-level system. And how to improve your acting systematically so more casting directors and agents take your performances seriously. So what are the biggest differences between screen and stage casting directors when it comes to what they're looking for in actors' performances? Well, stage actors are often looking for things like vocal projection and clarity, so you need to be heard easily from the back of a theater. Physical expressiveness, meaning people in the audience need to be able to see and understand what's going on. And of course, they're also looking for actors who have good stamina, on-stage presence, and even things like adaptability, where if the actor misses a line and they need to keep going, they can kind of deal with it very quickly and easily. Now, film and TV casting directors actually do not want actors who do those things, especially things like vocal projection and clarity. And they actively avoid actors who have too much physical expressiveness. These things just look too big and they don't work that well on camera. Casting directors who specialize in screen generally want subtlety and realism. They're looking for actors who don't seem to act, but are just so natural that their performance looks like normal, everyday life. Now, I've created a 4-level system that you can use to judge your own acting ability when it comes to performing on screen. So here's what those 4 levels entail. Level 1 is a performance that has technical problems. So you might miss or forget a line, or you might do something called indicate for the audience, and that's actually a classic thing that theater actors have to do so that the audience can see and understand what's going on. But that's a huge no-no for screen acting. Another level 1 issue is, for instance, if you don't know where to look during an audition and your eye line is kind of all over the place, or if you keep looking down at your lines too often that it becomes distracting. Technical problems like these hold performances back, and no matter how good your acting is, you're rarely going to be taken seriously if your performance has any level 1 problems in it. Level 2 is a performance that doesn't really have technical problems, but it's plagued with unclear choices. So you don't have those issues like forgetting your lines or giving a theater-style performance on the screen, but the problem is that your performance actually is hard to follow because you didn't do the proper homework by getting clear on every single thing in the scene. So for instance, who are you talking to? You need to figure that out or make something up if it's not clear in the casting call. Why are you telling them this? Like, why are you saying each and every line that's in the scene? What happened right before the scene? All of that. So the problem is that the less that you think about and figure out and make choices on beforehand, the harder your performance is going to be to follow, because people are just going to watch and things won't be clear and your performance will kind of be all over the place, and it's just difficult, and then people kind of lose interest as they're watching and their mind starts to wander, and you don't want that. Now, level 3 performances, those are ones that I would consider to be truly on point, but the problem is that they're basic. So you've made perfectly clear choices and your performance is easy to follow, and there's no level 1 issues like technical problems, but it's just not emotional or really interesting or engaging for the audience to watch. Truth be told, a level 3 performance might be a little bit boring and the audience just won't care that much. Some performances do actually call for level 3. For instance, if you're auditioning as a waiter in a restaurant taking an order, you don't want to give a really emotional performance, obviously, when it comes to something like that, because it just wouldn't make sense. So be clear on whether you should be aiming for a level 3 or a level 4 performance before you actually start. Now, level 4. This is where the entire scene shines. You've taken everything up a level by what I call raising the stakes, and you've made it much more emotional and engaging for viewers. They really care about what's happening because everything feels super important. So, for example, instead of just having a conversation with your friend, let's say you've decided that you're going to be talking to your dying mother. So maybe you're saying the same lines and there's the same concept of the scene, but suddenly everything that you're saying is way more emotional and heartbreaking. Or let's go a totally different direction. Let's say that you're talking to a Trump supporter and you hate Trump, right? And you're so angry. And even if the lines are the same, the way you say them completely changes because the choices that you've made are much more compelling. They're more interesting than just, I'm going to sit here and talk to a random friend and say these lines. In general, experienced casting directors and indie filmmakers will only hire actors who perform at level 3 or above. So if your goal is to book more screen acting work, I highly recommend looking at a recent recording of one of your performances and judging it realistically. Ask yourself, what level is this performance at? Are there level 1 issues with it that need to be fixed? Or are there choice issues, level 2 issues, where you're not clear on certain things that are happening in the scene? Try to put a number on the performance and then ask yourself, if I had to fix the issues that are at that level, what issues would those be specifically? The more specific you are, the easier it'll be to pinpoint the problems and to quickly work to fix them to bring your performance up to a bare minimum of level 3, or more ideally, for the meatier scenes, a level 4 performance. Doing that and doing it consistently will make it much more likely that you get selected for a callback or even book the job, especially for those bigger roles. Being systematic with your improvements is going to make it way easier for you to be taken seriously by bigger casting directors and bigger agents. Well, thanks for listening. Now, if you want to dive even deeper on performance and learn how to improve your technique, I highly recommend checking out my podcast called How to Be a Good Actor Without Paying for Classes, which is episode number 33. You'll learn a ton and you'll have a much better understanding of tactics that you can use to drastically improve your acting ability quickly, again, without having to spend money on classes or working with a coach. Check it out. Again, episode number 33, How to Be a Good Actor Without Paying for Classes on the Actor's Career Compass. Thanks